Welcome back to another interview for the UNLV Jazz and Commercial Music series. And we are going to be talking about the Dorian Dream, our new CD that was just released. And we are featuring the Contemporary Jazz Ensemble. Two of our songs were featured on the album, Like the Wind in the Leaves, My Hands in Your Hair, composed by Nick Bentz, a alumni of UNLV who just graduated last semester. And our other featured track is Oba Bao, arranged by Marshall Peterson, who is in that corner right over there. The UNLV Contemporary Jazz Ensemble won a downbeat this year under the category of Pop, Rock, and Blues Group for the Graduate College Division, which was arranged by Jeymar Perez for In Your Eyes, a tune by Bad Bad Not Good. So thank you guys so much for coming in this afternoon.
Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. So let's talk to Julian Tanaka. He's a professor at UNLV. He's the director of the Contemporary Ensemble. He's a saxophonist, clarinetist, composer, arranger. He's a UNLV alumni. He's performed with many groups and shows on the Strip, like Boys to Men and Baz, and he's even toured with Postmodern Jukebox. You also went to the Eastman School of Music for your master's degree, but I was just wondering, what made you come back to UNLV and become a professor?
Well, I'm married, so there's one reason, and so I came back to salvage my marriage. No, I'm just kidding. We were doing fine. It's just that we didn't live together in Rochester, so I came back and we're living together again. And I didn't really work in Rochester, where the Eastman School of Music is. I was just there to study. So the plan all along was to come back and continue working here, where I kind of set my roots, so to speak.
Right. And now you're the director of the Contemporary Jazz Ensemble, and you teach various lessons, like composing and saxophone as well, possibly?
Yeah, mostly composition, but sometimes saxophone or I've taught piano at UNLV as well.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Contemporary Ensemble?
Well, the Contemporary Jazz Ensemble has been a thing since right before I was there in 2006. It was originally like more of a funk ensemble. They would play it was all funk, right? And I actually went to one of their concerts before I became a student at UNLV full time. I was taking a math class at UNLV, and I was in the wind orchestra, and I was in the music building, and I was like, oh, there's a concert happening tonight. So I dropped into the black box, and I saw these people playing funk, and it was like John Summers, and I think Brian Triolo was playing, and like all these cats. I was like, oh, these are the guys, So like super impressed, like, wow, I hope I can play in that ensemble someday. And so when I got to UNLV, I got a chance to be a part of that. In the first semester was Dave Perico, and he had Alan Ferber as a guest, which was amazing. He went to school with Alan Ferber at Youngstown, I think. Anyway, and then it was Tony Bronco. I was in the ensemble for a long time. I played all the chairs. I played all the woodwind chairs. I played alto. I played flute, clarinet, tenor. I played bari sax one semester and bass clarinet. It was a good training in that way. And we played variety of repertoire. When Nathan Tenoy was directing it, we got to play a lot of his condensed versions of his big band arrangements, and some things that he wrote specifically for the band, like this tune called "The City," and some other things. And so when I came back from Eastman, I was approached by Dave Loeb to take over the direction of that ensemble, and I was thinking, okay, we could play Nathan's stuff, because a lot of the stuff that was in the library was Nathan's stuff. But I figured, we've been playing a lot of that. We did some student stuff too. But the other stuff in the library, I just wasn't, to be honest, I wasn't digging at all. So I was like, I'm going to start from scratch. And the first year was really tough. because I wrote some things, but I expected the students to write stuff, and they weren't used to it. So it was Jeymar. Were you part of that first semester?
No, probably not. No.
No, you came in the second year, I think. Yeah. So, but it was kind of an uphill thing. But each concert, I feel like we got better and better, and it's still getting better and better. And the focus has been on student compositions and vibe and groove and jazz. That's what it's about. That's what that ensemble is about. It's about what the students bring to the table.
So now that classes are online, how is the ensemble functioning now?
The focus is less on playing because from a practical standpoint, we're not playing. So why should I put the focus on the playing? That's how I look at it. So we've been doing more enrichment or not enrichment. It's more in-depth study of things we don't get to in a normal ensemble situation. So talking more about the history of jazz and talking about the social relevance of jazz, being a social justice music to begin with. Duke Ellington was part of the Harlem Renaissance movement. John Coltrane was part of the civil rights movement in the 60s. Jazz is an active music. And so we've been exploring those topics. We've been exploring diversity. It's more of a lecture slash forum-based class rather than a rehearsal-based class at the moment. And I feel like I've gotten a positive response from the students. You guys, you guys are in my class, Amy and Jeymar at the moment, and I just feel like, why not take the opportunity to do something different, than we usually do to get the most out of this situation. So,
Jeymar is an amazing saxophonist, composer, arranger, and a producer. So let's talk about your tune, In Your Eyes, that won the Downbeat Award. What was your approach to writing this tune for the contemporary ensemble?
Honestly, I felt like that kind of instrumentation that we had with violin and flute kind of helped me a lot with that, because if y'all don't know already, I'm like really into like 70s funky, just like dirty, funky music that just like grooves, And with that approach, I kind of went with more like Italian, like 70s soundtrack, kind of like funk, just like raw funk, And that's kind of like the vibe that Bad Bad Not Good kind of always goes for. So it was easy for me to kind of get these things. And then like with the violin, it has this timbre that just like fit in really well into it. So it was really one of my favorite arrangements to do for y'all. So yeah.
So you've been in a lot of different types of combos and groups at UNLV. How has being in so many different ensembles shape you as a musician and composer?
It kind of just like naturally kind of puts you in like different situations where you're with like different music, and most importantly with different musicians. There are obviously people that are easier to work with and people that are just harder to work with, but you kind of find balances within that, especially at UNLV, because you get to work with different people, different instrumentations, like we were talking about with contemporary. Like I've never written for violin or like not even a flute before I started with contemporary, but it was a challenge, and like it's kind of taught me to reach out a little bit more, and just has put more thought into like what I can really do with music, and kind of in what's the term? Like I'm trying to be like more dimensional, and like but you can only do that when you're put in these places with all these different things, and UNLV does a great job with all that.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, Jeymar, because when before I was the director, the contemporary ensemble had a very specific instrumentation. So it was like 2 trumpets, 3 saxophones, the trombone, and then a standard rhythm section of sorts.
Yeah.
And when I became the director, I just said, the repertoire is not what I want to use anyway. So we had to start from scratch. So whoever signs up is whoever plays. And
Yeah.
there's a reason I don't. There's not an audition group. You know, people ask me that sometimes. They're like, "How do I audition for contemporary ensemble?" Like, so you just sign up for it. You pay for it, and you join the group. That's it. You know, there's no auditioning for it. It's whoever's digging the vibe of the ensemble wants to be a part of that, and then whoever we end up with is what we write for, what the students write for, and a lot of times it is kind of funky combination. But I think it ends up kind of teaching everyone a thing or two about working with different ensembles. I know it's helped me a lot. So
now we're going into this whole new realm with a tune that you brought in with contemporary that's produced by you. And I just wanted to know, when did you make that switch from producing to jazz? And now we're playing one of your tunes in contemporary ensemble.
Yeah, it's well, for me, like I always grew up listening to like R&B and like hip hop especially, and like just culminating all these sounds that have just like entered into my brain. I've just like garnered like this huge library of like samples. Like if I were to hear like any rap song, like I could probably pick up the sample just because that's just like things that I just love. So just like the use of just like covering songs, just like sampling them, making them your own, has always been like something I just really love. And now with this tune, I have the opportunity to do that with everybody else in the ensemble, and it's kind of it's a good thing too, because like if if we weren't in this pandemic and we weren't like social distancing and all that, I wouldn't have this opportunity. So it's really fun. People are sending me all the tracks. I'm kind of putting effects on a little bit on them, and then I'm like chopping them up a little bit and making like something you wouldn't get in a person, like in person, what I'm saying? So it's fun. Yeah, it's definitely something very different from what the jazz has done like previous, but I'm excited to hear what it's gonna be like.
well, we are, after all, making the transition to commercial music and jazz, so
Yeah.
this is perfect. I really dig what you're doing. And
so let's move on to Marshall Peterson. Marshall's a bassist, composer, and arranger as well. He's been in a lot of various groups at UNLV, various combos, Latin jazz ensemble, contemporary ensemble, and he plays in the top big band as well. I want to talk about your tune Oba Bao and give us a little backstory on why you chose this tune and how you adapted it to the contemporary ensemble, because it's such a unique sounding tune.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I had come across that song just on Spotify Discover playlist. That's where I found the artist Prager, like a jazz fusion quartet actually. So I got super into that band and listened to their albums about the summer before, so about a year ago. And ever since I heard that opening track Oba Bao, I was just blown away by it. I knew that one day I wanted to play that song live because something about it just caught my ear that I knew eventually I was going to have to play it. So, being in the contemporary ensemble, that kind of fit the style that we were fitting in, what we were playing at the time. So figured that was the perfect opportunity to finally play that song. So, the original, it's actually only 4 or 5 people on the recording, but there's a lot of synths, there's a lot of layering. So I thought that would actually transition very well to our ensemble, as it's got a wide range of instrumentations, there's a lot of people and a lot of opportunity to add a lot of layers in different instruments that were already there. And I think a really interesting part of writing for that group, especially on a tune like that, is the different timbres and textures that you have in that group versus, you know, playing in a quartet and a combo or a big band, because rather than thinking about each section as, you know, we've got the trombone section, the saxophone, the trumpet, you can think more texturally, like we've got the high instruments, the middle and the low, the soft instruments, the bright instruments. So I think I was able to use the different textures and timbres to really bring out the sound of all the different keyboard and synth layers into live instruments.
I just like to add that I do talk about this stuff during class, like these composition techniques, but the students themselves, they put a lot of work figuring this stuff on their own. And that's something I think that they should be commended for. So like, especially for you two, like you know, I gave you suggestions, but you figured most of that stuff out. So, and you got the stuff done, and now it's on now it's on a recording.
Oh yeah,
you guys should feel really good about that.
So UNLV has put you in a lot of different types of ensembles, and you've written for Latin ensemble, various combos. How do you think some of these groups have prepared you to become a professional musician?
Well, for me, because at this point I've played in pretty much every combo and ensemble UNLV has to offer. It really, for me at least, the biggest thing that prepares you with is a couple things. Is number one, I think it teaches you really how to work with anyone, you know, because when you played in that many groups, I mean, you play with musicians of all different skill levels, you know, people that work in all different ways, you know, having to put tunes, set lists, and arrangements in a matter of weeks versus a matter of months. So it definitely really prepares you on how to work with a lot of new people and get things done in a timely manner. And I think another thing I learned a lot from is just learning how to take everything with equal importance in a way, you know, just taking everything as seriously as everything should, you know, really learning that, you know, if whether it was I was super excited about being in a group or less excited, it was that experience of learning that when that performance comes, you know, everything is as serious as anything else, and there's not really any importance in one group versus another, because really it's just playing music. Whoever you're playing with, it's all just as important. I think that's something I really learned from playing in everything pretty much.
And I think that prepares you to go out and create some of your own groups. Like Marshall and I just started a neo-soul kind of alternative rock group called Cora. And we have a couple singles out, but you also have a couple other outside groups too. I mean, you all do. You all have side groups that you work on and projects, you know, you're releasing, things like that. Yeah.
And Cora was the core of the contemporary ensemble.
That's true.
The rhythm section.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for coming in today and talking about the UNLV Contemporary Jazz Ensemble. And make sure to check out our CD with the big band, various combos, the UNLV Honors Trio, Contemporary Ensemble, and the Latin Jazz Ensemble, Dorian Dream. Thank you guys so much for coming in.